Sussing on you. I'm swagging.
It was the decade of big hair, big shoulders, and men in makeup. Day-glow colours were the height of good taste, and no room was complete without some of the defining images of the 80s on the wall. The Athena poster. Athena started out in 1964, selling works by the likes of Van Gogh and Monet, but soon turned its focus towards popular imagery such as the famous tennis girl poster of the 70s. By the early 1980s, sales had started to dwindle, but then came one look that would turn Athena's fortunes around, the art of the airbrush. Britain's original style guru and 1980s expert, Peter York, remembers the era well. What was happening around the time these images were becoming popular, and what sparked it all off?
Well, you're talking early 80s, and the truth of the early 80s is that everything was awful. The world was unreservedly terrible, people were out of work, and there are two ways you can respond to that. One is you can grab it with both hands and be as miserablest and black and white as possible, and the other is to do what people did in the 30s, to go into fantasy land, and this stuff is like 30s fantasy land.
Why did airbrushing in particular appeal so much?
Airbrushing gave you wonderful perfection, and people wanted wonderful perfection in a time where things were anything but perfect. So you got something that was overtly artificial. You know, we're saying, it's not real, but we like it.
This technique was an overnight success, and soon airbrush posters were everywhere. And who were the artists?
The artists were wonderfully unknown technical guys. They were guys who could get a perfect finish. And they're not people who went, for the most part, on to fame as a serious artist. They were people often who did record covers. This guy was obviously a wizard with the airbrush. And I can see its collectability as kitsch. I absolutely can. So if you were a cynical collector, you'll be stocking this stuff up.
During the 80s, one such artist created some of the most memorable images in modern illustration. Sid Brack perfected the airbrush technique, producing titles like Lost Love and Wired for Sound, and in 1982, his long-distance Kiss was the top-selling poster in the world. These are fantastic images. How did they come about?
Athena approached me. They asked me to develop a series and a look for a young market, a young teenage market. At the time, the teenagers, which is the late 70s, were in the punk era. Now, the punk was a nice look. It was colourful, it was happy, but it was essentially rather dirty at the same time. And I imagined what it would be like if an Italian designer got hold of this look and what he would do with it. And that's the result.
And what actually is the technique of airbrushing? How do you do it?
It's a very laborious technique. You get a piece of board, you draw a drawing on it, you take a piece of film, you stick it over that drawing, you cut out the area you want to colour in, and you spray it. Then you do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. After about 30 of these cut-out shapes and things, you end up with a drawing.
How does it make you feel to have created such a fantastic bit of work that is on so many people's walls?
It makes me very proud. I mean, you've got to be proud of your children. You've got to love them. They're my children.
Are you ever going to pick up the airbrush again?
Yes, if you ask me nicely.
By the early 90s, Athena became a victim of its own success. The posters were everywhere, and people started to want something a bit different. But this image and the shiny strokes of airbrush art continue to appeal decades on.
Sussing on you. I'm swagging.